Tomorrow to finish off the week, you'll be facing LG. What are you expecting for that series?
I don't know.
Oh dear. That was quite a bit of a surprise this morning when I woke up pretty early because my fiance, she went to work super early, doing overtime, etc. Getting married at the end of the year, gotta get the pennies in. Anyway, so I just loaded up Twitter because I was awake. Noticed that LG had dropped Gunless, and I just don't. Firstly, he's not the guy you should have dropped. We'll get to that later. Secondly, this is one of the reasons that you pick up a super competent sub at the beginning of the season. Yeah, okay, Ricky's there. It's an easy fix. He knows the team because he's been coaching them, etc. He's an easy jump in, but I'd argue he's not the highest quality of player. I mean that goes without saying, and that's nothing against Ricky. You know, he just doesn't suit in with this LG lineup. But yeah, very strange decision. We're going to break down some of the reasons as to why we think it might have happened, who else it should have been really, what LG do in the future. And I think that's one of the things as well, is that you look at it like the next roster lock isn't until the 17th of June. So that's when it unlocks, I should say, sorry, and that's when they can make a change, which is directly after Anaheim. I do think it is the Monday after. So yeah, long time. We're going to go through some of the things I said. Typically, I've got everything written down here, but another thing I wanted to point on actually was, I mean, you've seen this week that Reciprocity did make a change, albeit it was a forced one due to Tommy wanting to take a step down, just basically due to mental health issues, etc., which I said very much on board with that. You got to look after yourself. Den's coming in, and that scenario made sense, but they've had that good substitute still there. It's not like they've had to fly Den's in from Australia, or they've got somebody on the side like Shane there. They've kept him on board. They've stayed true to themselves and kept him available if they need him, and that option is paid off in the end because of what happened with Tommy. He is there, and he's a suitable pickup, whereas Ricky, I feel as if really isn't going to be there. But for me, like the reason that it's Gunless seems to be the perceived attitude problems, the toxicity that he potentially does have. We know that he is one of these players who will sort of say what he thinks is right for the team, and he will say what's on his mind. But for me, it feels like a bit of a scapegoat from LG to remove him off due to the fact that obviously last week he went to some electronic festival. I think it was EDC, yeah, something. Either way, not important. But either way, he went there instead of practicing during the weekend when they already had a bad time, and was one of the last guys to show up, etc. But I think for me, that's probably just an accumulation of everything that's actually went on in this team, to the point of where beginning of the year didn't look so great. They got a little bit better at Pro League after having a terrible start. Then they went on to win Fort Worth, and then things have just went downhill from there. So I think I can understand his frustrations. And another thing on top of that, a few people were like, oh, well, you know, if he's not putting in the time in, then yeah, he should be removed. But realistically, everyone on this roster would have been able to say, no, we need to practice. You shouldn't be going away. They should be speaking to them. They should be held accountable together for his actions if those actions are impacting the team. We're going to go through some stats in a bit as well, which makes me think that, well, Gunless isn't really the problem, and I think he sees it that way as well. But it's a team thing. You need to be making these decisions together. If you do feel as if things are in a dire strait, you can't be letting people go off and do that. But they've just got, like, for me as well, the period between now. The cat's just coming in and getting in. Get out the bin. Get out the bin. Get out the bin. Where LG are at the minute. But for me, they've got like 3 to 4 weeks before Anaheim at this point, and I just think you had time to figure this out. You had time to sort this out. And I think bringing Ricky in, yes, you could argue that, yes, okay, they've got 3 or 4 weeks to then figure out what they're doing with Ricky, but wouldn't you maybe just start from a clean and sort of say, let's figure out what we have to do with Gunless because of the stats that you put. Get out of the bin. Go. It's been a lot of issues either way, and I just don't think Gunless is the reason. I delved into some stats anyway. Let's have a look through some things. Fort Worth, so this is the event that they obviously won. The overall map count was 19-9. Hardpoint was 7-5. S&D 6-3. Control 6-1. Very good from the control spec point of view. S&D pretty good as well. Hardpoint pretty decent, but obviously they'd probably like to improve on that. So let's have a look at the London map count. 11-16. not nearly as good, of course. Hardpoint 5 and 6, S&D 4 and 6, 2 and 4 in control. So overall, pretty poor. Let's have a look at the KDs as well. So KDs at Fort Worth, Gunless put up a 1.3. In London, he put up a 1.17. So sorry, these are adjusted KDs to incorporate S&D into their overall KD, but adjusted to make the kills in S&D weigh a little bit more. Slacked put up a 1.06 at Fort Worth, a 0.87 in London. Formal put up a 1.01 at both events, Mr. Consistent. Classic put up a 0.96 at Fort Worth, and bearing in mind on the Sunday, I think it was something like a 1.3 or a 1.4 he put up. And then in London, he put up a 0.79, which is like the 4th or 5th worst. John put up a 0.95 in Fort Worth and a 0.91 in London. Now, obviously, the biggest drop-off here is just about Classic. Slack dropped off quite a bit as well. The others, though, are not too far off. Gunless did drop off quite a bit, actually, as well. But still, the highest numbers on this team are relevant of that. So, a couple of other standouts from London that I wanted to touch on. So their hardpoint kill efficiency was the 3rd lowest. So to explain hardpoint kill efficiency, basically cutstats.gg, shout out to JP and the gang, they delve into how many hardpoint points you get per 5 kills you pick up. And they only picking up 9.09 points per 5 kills, which was the 3rd worst. This is behind E6 and Midnight, whose hardpoint records were 2 and 6 or 3 and 7, which tells me that there's a problem in the setup when they're getting into the point. They can't seem to keep a hold of hardpoints. This is something they can maybe look into. They will know these stats. I'm not the one that should be reading these off, really. This should be your coach. This should be Ricky coming in and saying, right, okay, we obviously aren't holding things as well as we'd like to. Our entry is maybe not too bad, but then it's holding it, or it could be a couple of different things, but it's the 3rd lowest either way. Control there. Overall team KD was a 0.93, which was one of the lowest. I went through and had a look at everyone's separate control control kill to death ratios. Again, this is from London. 1.1 for Gunless, a 1.11 for John. Formal with a 0.95. That's everything seems pretty good. Gunless once again near the top. Classic and Slacked. Classic 0.74 and a 0.76 for Slack. I just like, and then they're not pulling their weight. It has to be said. Yes, okay. We've had this argument time and time again about KD not necessarily meaning the most. How much does it mean? But in this game, it is a very trade-heavy game. It means a lot in this game. Yes, okay. The important kills are what make it, and you could argue that Slacked was the reason that they got the win in that controversial control against FaZe Clan. But for me, kill to death ratio has become very, very important in this game. You need to be putting up numbers for your team. That is ultimately what is winning championships right now. I mean, in that game mode, Gunless and John had the 19th and 20th best kill to death ratio. This is based on 80 players, of course. So they're putting up the numbers, these guys, in these game modes, and Classic and Slack seem to be that determining factor that is struggling in every single facet in that respect. I'm not going to pin it all on them, don't get me wrong. Obviously, if Gunless is putting up these numbers and they're not winning, then there's reasons behind that the teamwork isn't there to a point. But this is what I'm saying is, if you're going to draw up anybody, it's not Gunless, it's not, well, maybe John, but it's not Formal. It had to be really Classic or Slacked. And you know, look, I like both those guys. They're good players in their own right, but they are not performing. Those are the guys that aren't performing, and one of those two really should have been the ones that were removed for me. I think. Just to wrap it up quickly, for me, I think winning Fort Worth was possibly the worst thing that could have happened to LG. It's the worst thing. Things were going really badly in the Pro League. They picked it up a little bit, got a little bit of that fire back you felt, and the train started rolling. Then winning Fort Worth, albeit the Rampart might have had a little bit of a factor in that one, no doubt. I just think that winning Fort Worth was possibly the worst thing that could have happened to this team. They would have changed it had they had a poor result, which they should have had, and then we may have not seen them in this situation struggling for the rest of the year, which is likely what's going to happen. The change can't happen until the 17th of June if you are going to make changes, which they should and probably will. So they're stuck with this for a little while. They're stuck with Ricky on the team instead of arguably, probably your best player on the bench. For me, if I was to pick anybody to remove from this roster and give Ricky a shot in there, even though ultimately I probably wouldn't even change anything, I'd just maybe just sit down with the team and try and figure stuff out rather than actually changing the roster, because Ricky is not an upgrade for anybody, really. No offense to him, but I think if you're going to remove anybody, it's Classic. He has not performed so far this year. I did question his place on this roster at the beginning of the year. It seemed as if LG got rid of JCap for Classic, and it was one of those things that was like, is this really the best idea? He didn't have a great World War II for me, and it seems to have continued on into this game, unfortunately, for LG fans. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, especially if you are a big fan of LG, to see them going in this direction. And I sort of passed over my little head at the beginning of the episode here, but Crimsix's interview might go down as one of my favourite ever interviews in the CWL. Jess killed it with asking that question, because we got the Porthouse quote, etc., etc. But yeah, hilarious interview, a hilarious time. What the past 12 hours has been very strange, very, very strange. Gunless being dropped by the LG organisation, claiming he didn't put up against it or anything. Clearly doesn't want to really be playing in this team at the moment, but they do need to figure this out before we get to Anaheim. Anyway, guys, leave a comment below. What do you think LG should do? It's not really a lot they can, that's the thing. You know, as said, there's no roster unlock period until the 17th of June, so figure it out. Get your shit together and figure it out. Leave a like on the video if you could as well. Subscribe to the channel, plenty more videos coming. Spitfire will be back soon, I promise. We're going to have it coming out. Got new graphics and everything. I still don't have graphics here, but we got new Spitfire graphics either way. But yes, guys, we'll see you on the next video.